Awesome. Okay, so welcome to the She's the Owner podcast. And I've started videotaping these just to have more content. I think it's nice to see, right now, it's nice to see your face and another person's face. So it's extra nice. So this is, how do you pronounce your last name? I don't want to.
Lal.
Lal, okay.
Yeah.
So my background's Ukrainian. I'm a Hnatyuk.
Oh.
My maiden name is Hnatyuk. My baba lived in Kiev. And they actually immigrated to Winnipeg, which is where I'm from, it was like right after the war. They were in, I'm going like next level really fast, but they were in like a work camp with the Nazis, and they escaped and went to Winnipeg. And it's interesting because they started a store. And I always think back like, holy, my baba was like the OG entrepreneur in our family, because they started a little corner store, and that's what they did until they were much older. But so Aggie is an influencer, and I met Aggie in 2018 at Business Mastery. I don't know if you remember, it was like so quick. And
no, I remember you. What do you mean?
I don't know. Don't you find that whole week was kind of a blur?
Anything Tony Robbins, it's like it's a bubble in your life, and it's like the longest and the shortest at the same time. So you feel like when you're there, you feel like you've been there for a year, and like you forget that you actually had a life before that.
Right.
But when it ends, it's so fast, and you're like, oh wow, I don't want it to end.
So which events have you done? Did you just do Business Mastery, or have you done?
No, I've done UPW, so Unleash the Power Within, which is like the introductory course by Tony, and I've done Date with Destiny.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh God, this is going to be a good one. When did you do it? Because I just did mine in December.
We really met in 2018.
Yes.
That's pretty recent. So I did Date with Destiny a year prior Business Mastery. So 2017. Okay. It feels like way longer.
Yeah, well, mine feels like way longer, and it was like.
I mean, I've changed so much as a person. I was like, I can't believe like I only like Tony Robbins my life 3 years ago.
Right.
Like the before Tony Robbins and the after Tony Robbins life.
So when you did, okay, so let's dive in. So when I like Date with Destiny for me, so I've talked about this a lot. My husband and I just got back together in January of this year. So this is kind of like, we've been married for almost 20 years, and we separated.
What do you mean you just, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so we broke up in 2016, and we're still like, we have the content company is our company. We have that together, and then She's the Owner's my own thing, but we still always stayed close. We have 4 children together. 3 of them are adults, but whatever, like we're a close family. But I went to date with that because I was like, in and out. We'd have sex, and then we wouldn't. And then we would be like, oh, this is it. We're totally separated now. And all this back, like for 3 years, it was like this. So I went to Date with Destiny and I had done, I think 3 UPWs last year, like, cause I take people, right? That's the whole goal of She's the Owner is to take 1,000 women to that event. But I went to Date with Destiny.
It's a beautiful goal, by the way. Congratulations.
It's going to take a little bit now, but that's okay. But I went there with the intention to like piss or get off the pot. And it happened really quick. Like the opportunity presented itself to go for a really good price. And it was like within a couple of days, I made it happen. But that's where I really dug into the feminine and the masculine energy. And when you did your Date with Destiny, did you guys do that exercise where you danced and then the guys did the Braveheart thing where they stood up and said freedom?
Oh, yeah, I did.
Wasn't that like, that was it for me? Because I viscerally understood, because I'd been talking about it with She's the Owner since August. I'm like, well, I'm trying to get into my feminine. But when I went to that event, I was like, holy fuck, like, now I get it. So I came back with the intention to fully divorce him because I was firmly in my feminine and I understood it. And then all of a sudden this guy shows up in his masculine. I was like, oh, so I had to get out of the way. And there we have it. And that was the lesson. But right now it's hard because it's crisis mode, right? And I'm fighting. And as an entrepreneur, you'll understand this, right? Like you're fighting. 100%. So tell me a bit about Travel in Her Shoes. Tell me a bit about how, because I don't even think I really understood influencer marketing in 2018 yet. I'm in marketing and I still was like, So tell us a little bit about how you got into it and then the journey from there. And
honestly, it came super naturally. So like back in the day when I started being a travel blogger, whatever the word is. I didn't get into it because it could make money. I got into it because 5 or 6 years ago, it was a way to be a creator, a content creator. And no one saw the potential back then to make a lot of money. At least I didn't. I got into it because I was like, oh, I can have audience and share with people what I'm super passionate about. And I, at that point, I already been to like 45 countries. I sailed across the Pacific. I was just about to climb Kilimanjaro, so it was a very natural extension of what I do. I love photography, although my photos were terrible when I look at them right now, but that's cool. So like it's not like it is right now. Like I think right now people get into influencing because it's like, oh, you know what? This is a business model that's really easy to, if you follow these particular steps, you can actually, you can make a lot of money. Back in the day, it was more like people got into blogging or even on Instagram because they had a message that they really, like, they were dying to share. So that's how I started. And the second question was how I got into it and when I realized I was an entrepreneur.
Yeah, like when did you have that? I think, well, remember at Business Mastery when he talks about there's the entrepreneur, the manager, leader, and the creative.
Yeah.
What, like, of those three things, when you were there, what were you like? Because I had
100% creator,
right?
100% creator, and I wouldn't even call myself entrepreneur. Like my business model. Oh, that's what I was talking about. Thank you. So my business model, even when I started growing and I had all these opportunities from brands to like promote something on my channel, I was like, you know what? I don't feel like comfortable posting about brands. So I started coming up with my own products. I came up with my photo filters where you can like edit photos and like put my filter on your photos, because that's still, which is I guess what entrepreneur does, like creates their own products versus works with brands. It's like a slightly different business model. And because I'm a creator, I really struggle with the logistics part of my business. So finding the right people that can help my vision is what what's that's my biggest struggle. But I also, I also find that it's beautiful to team up with people that are smarter than you in certain ways. So
Totally.
it's good and bad.
Yeah, and that's it. Like, and I think it's important to say too that, like, I would have, when I started, I was thinking I was manager, leader, entrepreneur, creative, and now I realize I'm entrepreneur, creative. I'm a terrible leader, and I wouldn't have thought that. But I think even as an entrepreneur, like, I'm my own bottleneck a lot of the time, even though I think I'm not. And so even if you're creative,
awareness is amazing. So we all are to some extent. So the fact that you have that awareness, like,
yeah,
puts you ahead of the game already.
But I mean, and obviously, like, I follow Michael as well, and I know you guys worked together. And are you guys working together again, or no? Is it just
with who? Sorry,
Michael?
Michael?
Yeah.
Michael, my ex-husband.
Yeah.
We go on trips and like we're still in touch every day. But like, it's not something that I'm neither forcing nor resisting.
Right.
We're happy to work together, but it's not like I don't plan my future, like my professional future with him, because
Right.
obviously it's not ideal, but like when an opportunity arises and both of us can help each other, that's great.
Yeah, and so that would be an example of finding somebody. You said your pictures weren't the best. I doubt that, whatever. But that's an example.
At the very, very beginning,
okay.
You have to look.
But that, and like, same for me, there's a lot of things. Plus, as an entrepreneur, there's stuff that we hate doing, like, and that are scary, like accounting. I mean, sometimes I don't mind it, but most of the time I hate it. And so I think it's important, to the entrepreneurs, obviously, hopefully many of you are, we're both pretty seasoned entrepreneurs, Aggie and I, and there's still shit we don't want to do. And it's okay. Like, I think that's part of the masculine energy, right? Is thinking we have to do it all, but you can't be successful if you're doing everything.
Yeah. And sometimes you're standing in the way of your own success. So realizing part of the growing up you need to do as an entrepreneur is realize, you know what, I can do that, but I'm really bad at it. So that just, I'm like sabotaging my own business. I need to find someone who's great at it. And speaking of taxes, yesterday, I was on the phone with Michael because I'm like, I don't know how I put all this together. So yeah.
My head hurt. So what was one of the scariest things what did you do before this? Like I watched a little, like whenever you post about your when you were sailing, I feel really anxious when I watch it, because that's the thing about you that I love is that, and as I've watched you evolve over the last like couple of years, your emotional, like what you show is really different now than it was. And that's fucking beautiful, because now it's way more relatable, right? And I think that's part of what we as women need to really be aware of, is that I'm not going to pretend it's like the easiest thing to be a mom, and like, it's not, it's fucking hard. I love it. But I think when you are as real as you are, and you show, like I feel anxious when I'm watching that, when you're on the boat. I'm just like, oh my God, how did she, like,
I find it super funny. So we're referring to, for those of you listening,
yes,
we're referring to this video of myself where I got stuck in a storm after 185 days of being out in the ocean. And I was hungry. I ran out of food. I was just straight on like frustrated and upset, because here I am. I went on this awesome epic trip to cross the Pacific Ocean with no experience and no equipment. And I am about a day away from Sydney Harbor to like finish this whole thing. And I can already see Sydney. And I was like, oh my God, I'm almost home. I'm like, I can't wait to go and get a coffee. It's my first coffee in a year, like from a coffee shop. And all of a sudden, it's like a storm like picks up and it pushes us all the way like 4 days away from Sydney, just like within 5 hours. And I got a major breakdown. So there's this video that I posted on Instagram where I basically says like, do not attempt to cross the Pacific because what do you get? Shit, that's what you get. So I'm like, also, it makes me laugh because I feel like I was trying to be so like, I don't know, like I felt like this is my self-help video, but like to other people, do not do this. Like, this is not the way to grow. But at that point, I already knew that's the best thing that happened to me. But even then, that's the funny thing about self-growth and growth in general. Like, that's the best thing that's happening for you, like in coronavirus. For a lot of us who are safe, and I'm not talking about the doctors risking their lives, but there's so many of us that are safe at home.
Right.
We're not stuck, we're safe at home. And we're like, know that us staying put and cleaning up this mess that's happening in our head is the best thing that can happen to us, because we're growing and this is it, but we're still like resisting it. And that's kind of cute. I find it super cute. I watched this video and I'm like, okay, she's so cute. She's like growing like a motherfucker, but yet she's like crying like a baby.
Yep. I always say that, like when I talk to I talk to a lot of younger people or girlfriends even, and friends of mine that want to start businesses and or go down that personal growth. And I go, like Joseph McClendon says it, he's like, if it's not painful, it's not growth. Like, it's not personal development. And if you've been to, we've been to the same events. I mean, even at Business Mastery, I was a wreck. Like, and then when I went to UPW and I was like, holy shit, there's more. And then I went to Date with Destiny. I'm like, there's more. And I did Breathworks 2 weeks ago and there's more. Like, that's it. And if you were just smiling the whole time on the boat and everything was like,
yeah. Well, that's, and so funny because one of the things that like one of my recent projects for this year is actually fighting with this idea that there is more. Because from one hand, and I think this is a problem that people like you and I have, is that we want to grow, and we know that growth is amazing, makes us better people, etc., etc. But there's always more. There's no end to it. So at what point you decide that enough is enough, and like, I can be learning all my life and I will learn all my life, but I also don't want to come from a place of lacking. Like, there is something that I'm not doing and I should be doing. I should be doing breath work. And then you realize, oh fuck, and I should be doing ice baths because Wim Hof does ice baths. But then the meditation, the loving kindness one. And then a priming, like I need to do priming and do this whole like, Tony Robbins priming exercise and do my move, and then I should be doing this. And you feel like you have good intentions of growing as a person, but then you end up feeling way more depleted and way more not enough because there is more. So the challenge for us people who love self-growth and people who would want to become the best version of ourselves in life is to make peace with the fact that it's good enough to be just the good enough version of ourselves, and there's time to also live and be human. And that's something that I've been learning and exploring and embracing. And I think I challenge you to feel the same and take a month or two without reading a self-help book, but just like fantasy or reading a fiction book, and just realizing, you know what, I've done enough work, time to like take a month off
and enjoy it. Yeah.
Not even implement it, just like this is you, like you are enough. Like, great, awesome that you're growing, but you don't need to be growing to. You are the best version of yourself by the fact that you are. And then like you look at yourself as a, like, oh, Cara, so cute of you that you tried. I think it's like so cute and so awesome of you that you are so committed to self-growth. But then even if you did nothing, no self-growth for the rest of your life,
right,
like that, you've already like fucking killed it.
Right.
Because your intention is good.
Right? Like that's it. They do. Yeah. They get addicted to all of it. And then, but the problem, just like you're saying, is that what happens if Tony Robbins or Byron Katie or any of them decided to close up shop and go on vacation for the rest of their lives? Then what? You have to be able to be still and be okay with the version that you are. And I get that way too, where but then I'm exhausted. I'm like, holy fuck, like I'm trying to do priming and all that. And you're like, I'm just going to chill because I'm pretty good. So
what if Tony Robbins is going to come up with a brand new retreat every 2 months? Like there's a point where you like, as much as I love Tony Robbins, I don't want to come from a place of lacking. And I think if someone's listening to this right now that are already in this mode of probably like driving to work or doing something meanwhile while listening to this, if someone is listening to this podcast and not doing something else at the same time, I want to meet you, because we're women. We do 2-3 things at the same time, and that makes us feel like we're not enough. So I bet you're like doing something and listening to podcasts how to do more. So I'm here to tell you, this is if all you have to do is like chill the fuck out. And literally, if you gave someone some love and you gave some love to yourself and you were present for at least a minute a day, you've already done enough. And the rest is a bonus. It's fun. It's a bonus. Who doesn't like bonuses? Awesome. But this should not be something that you're creating your life around, because you're enough, you're doing enough.
Yep. I totally agree. So let's talk a little bit about what you're feeling or understanding about masculine and feminine energy. Because a lot of what you're talking about, like it, if you're on your own, that's one dynamic. But if you're married, that's another dynamic. If you're dating somebody, that's another dynamic. So talk a little bit about what your thoughts are, what you feel, what your level of understanding is around feminine and masculine energy, and how that might show up in your business, but also in your personal life.
Such a broad topic, but let me attempt. So after doing Date with Destiny with Tony, I remember I was coming back in an Uber after the relationship day with a girl. We were catching the same Uber back to our respective hotels. And I said, wow, this literally blew my mind, this whole energy of masculine and feminine. And I'm just like, oh, it's all Alison Armstrong's work, to be honest. And I'm like, oh, who's Alison Armstrong? And that was the beginning of my relationship with Alison Armstrong. And Alison like spent her entire life discussing.
She was at my Date with Destiny.
She was?
Yeah, she's incredible. I love her so much. But yeah,
I did a live with her the other day. I don't know if you missed it.
No, I didn't see it. Oh,
yeah, we went live together. She's incredible. But like your Understanding Men course is the basic one is 40 hours. And then Understanding Women, and there's level 2, level 3. So it's a broad topic of how to understand these energies. I feel like if there is one person that has impacted the way I interact around people would be Alison Armstrong, and understanding that what energy is, and then like being in a relationship with someone who also has a similar understanding, who wants to be in their masculine and who is letting me be in my feminine and protecting my feminine is great. But like Alison recently discovered that she discovered that she was teaching things um, not quite precisely, so to say. So she discovered that women have their feminine energy, but they're often in their masculine energy, but in a good way. So they're in their hunter mode, huntress mode. And we are in the huntress mode when we run our own business. And it's not, yes, you can come and run your business with the feminine energy, but there is an element, there's always an element of masculine energy in anything you do, and it's fine. It's not something that you should completely, and that was my original understanding of feminine masculine, and I was trying to get rid of all the masculine traits in me because I want a masculine guy. But then I realized I don't want an ultimate macho that would tell me, okay, you can't work, you should stay at home and smell good and like hang out on a couch and do your nails. That's not what I'm looking for. I also appreciate men that are sensitive. Like I'm attracted to men that are sensitive, that are spiritual, that are in tune with their feelings, which is pretty feminine. So I realized I need to balance both, and that's just been really life-changing and really inspirational.
So a lot, the people that follow and will be hearing this are, not as, they haven't been to Date with Destiny. A lot of them, they're not familiar with it. And so I always say high level, it is the hunter versus the gatherer. And I think the issue lies when I started to discover my imbalance, we'll call it, was really with my kids. And in the summer before I got back together with my husband, and I was single, and I kept thinking, why can't I meet somebody? Everyone says I'm this and I'm not. And I'm like, what the hell? And so then I started treating my children more like they were in my business. So it was like less feminine and more like, let's get this done, like that whole energy. And so I think what happens, I have friends who are very committed to staying in their hunter mode all of the time. And they're wondering why they're not meeting a partner, or why do men not want to hang out with them. And
I mean, I'm sure they do. It's just like you attract feminine men. So
right. And but they complain about it.
Yeah, exactly. So you just have to be aware. It's like,
right,
you are attracting people. You're just not attracted to the people you're attracting, because
and it's not until, and so for the women that are listening, when you're running your business, it's important to be in that hunter mode. We have to be like, especially, I mean, I go to I travel a lot for the content company, and I'm meeting a lot of men, and it's important that I put out hunter energy in those moments. I've had men take advantage of me. I've had some not so great things happen when I'm too in my feminine energy, and because I'm a generally open, inviting person, and some men will misunderstand that, and they have. And so it's important. Like, I'm never saying don't be that masculine energy in your business, but it should never be your 100%. Because when you come home, for me, it was like, why can't Ken do this? Well, because you're not, like I always say, I cut his nuts off. Like, what am I expecting him to do? When I say, can you help me? And he goes to help me, and then I'm right behind him complaining about how he's doing it. That's me in my masculine. In my feminine, I'm just happy that he's helping me. And maybe he didn't put the dish in the right fucking spot. Okay.
Well, that if you do understanding women, you actually will see that for women, what matters more is the way you do things, not that you do them. So that's you actually being very feminine by micromanaging.
Well, but I'm exhausted by it. I don't want to. Like,
yeah, that's why you need to leave the room.
Right. And that's 100%. And
that's what I was like, I asked my husband to cut onions, and I cannot do this. He's doing it all the wrong ways. And she's like, I can either micromanage him or just leave the room and just see, do I want to be right, or do I want to be in love?
Right. And that's it. And it's interesting because, like I said before we started recording, like right now I feel like I'm still new to because here's the reality is, like, since I was probably about 10, I grew up in an alcoholic family. There was a lot of chaos. There was abuse. So I really, at a young age, discovered that being in control or being in my masculine was necessary. I had to make sure everything was okay. And so I carried that through my adulthood. And I've done all this work to really honor that, but remember that it's not my 100%. But now with the coronavirus, it's like I've
But
gone.
I love this. I love Corona because it's like you say you had to be in control, but were you really in control?
My
Like
perception.
never really yet. You know, perception, which is beautiful because Corona just goes to show you, like it's not like you ever were in control to begin
No.
with. People are like, I lost control. Like honestly, like you're like you have no control. You just that illusion,
Right.
which is comes from an insecurity where you like so scared that you need an illusion of control. So you try to like control all of these
Yep.
things, which is again, it's super cute when you think about it. It's like, oh, she's trying to control
Right.
everything because she's scared. Like
Yep.
poor little Clara. But like
Right.
it's just coming from that place of understanding that you're doing that. And I love what this crisis has shown people that
Oh, isn't
none
that
of us is in
amazing?
control. Yeah. I mean, again, this is putting aside like, I mean, the damage and the people that have actually like
Yep.
lost their jobs, etc., etc. So I don't want
Yeah,
to
we're not trying to
belittle
downplay,
the
but
problem, but
yeah.
when you look at it as a psychological experiment, it's if I was to like you go to this meditation retreat when you sit still for 3 days and all of a sudden Mother Earth was like, I'm way too polluted, so I'm gonna make everyone sit down, like in kindergarten when kids misbehave and the Mother Nature comes over and like, okay kids, everyone sits down for a month
Yep.
and sit still. And it was like the worst punishment as a kid when
Right.
you couldn't play, you couldn't be running around. You had to stand in a corner for like a minute or two.
Mm-hmm.
It was the worst punishment, but it taught you something. So this is us
That's
standing in the
it.
corner right now.
100%. Like, and that's the interesting thing is like, so I feel like I found my feminine divine in core and I really got into it. And then all of a sudden the universe is like, hold on, you thought you had this feminine stuff understood and you were practicing it. And then it just puts it back to me. And because now I really do have to shut the fuck up and just let him lead, whatever that looks like in our family. It's not like we work together constantly, but it's like I have to it's the energy in here that's back to me, sort of pulling for alpha dog status.
Yeah.
And I'm just, but it's a lesson. And that's the beautiful thing. And he said the other day, like, we're going to have a chapter on how we reconnected because we were like this, and then we're starting, and then we're like this. But everything is, I really very much in my heart, I think we needed this collective chill, like as an entire planet, we needed it.
I love that.
Totally. And I'm learning so much. You're learning, like we're all learning a lot about ourselves and the beauty in all of this. And again, like we're not suggesting that there's not people in real pain, and we understand that. But the people who are safe, it's cool to watch my friends who have been go, 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 and now they can't. And so they have to just, and I think it's a beautiful thing. So if you, I mean, obviously, if you've a student of Allison's and you've read and like I said, she was like, when I saw her walk, I meant to go talk to her, but when I saw her walk by, she just kind of, it's like, do you know Byron Katie? She does the work. Have you heard of her? I'll send you a link to her. I think
so.
Yeah, she does, how Tony will do the 4 questions, is it true? Can you absolutely know that it's true? What happens to your life when you don't carry that story? And then turn it around on how that story that you just told me was bullshit. And that's very, very, very summing up of Byron Katie. But when Allison and Byron, both of them, speak or do anything, they're like, they float. They're like, their energy is just, I could just all day just watch and listen to them both. Their energy is really incredible. But if you had to think of a time when, before you really understood this dynamic in yourself.
I mean, I'm still learning. I love that you paint this picture of me having it all.
Well, you feel like like you're there more than most people.
Well, I know it with my conscious mind. My autopilot is still like the alt program. So, yeah.
So when do you find, like, are there ever times in I'm aware of it and I'll say, okay, I'm totally showing up in my mouth. I'm criticizing him. Why am I doing that? But are there times that you can look back at, even with your marriage, your past marriage, where you're like, maybe I was emasculating him, or maybe I was, because I'm not feeling safe, and I'm feeling unheard and misunderstood, and all those ways we know that we end up in our masculine.
And the problem for us was that Michael was helping my vision, and I'm just moving my fingers over here doing a quotation mark, because it's like, was my blog that he originally wanted to help grow, and the blog grew to like almost 1 million people, and he ended up taking photos for me. But when it comes to my vision and how I talk to my followers and things I do, I am very, very, what would be the right word? Strong-headed about how I opinionated. Very particular. I'm very particular about my direction. So he understood that, and he respected my vision, but that also meant that basically I was in my masculine, he was there helping me. But that's the opposite, that's the opposite dynamic we needed in our marriage, which basically, like, we never had time for marriage because we worked like 24/7, because we never carved out this time. But it was a conscious decision. It's not like I was like taken by surprise. The illusion that you have when you work together is that when you have an exciting project, you feel like, fuck, I know this is not serving my marriage. It's not ideal for my marriage, but it's just like one more week, and then we'll have time off and we'll chill and whatnot. But we both were addicted to working. And a lot of times when I remember we would go to Maldives, and I said, Michael, let's just sit out for like an hour by the pool. He's like, no, I'd rather edit this photo. So it's not necessarily just me pushing, but both of us really pushing for this. And like just thinking and letting this illusion fool you that next week you're going to be less busy and you'll work on your marriage. 4 years later, there's nothing to go back to.
Yeah. And I think like Ken and I told you in the start, we've been together for 20 years, and we work this business. We don't work together, although he wants to help me, because in this area, I feel like I'm definitely in my masculine, and we're pretty comfortable there, but it's tricky. Like and even now, it's like we make jokes about it, but I'm used to being with him, working, but I'm also used to being out of the house and doing other things. And I'm used to him doing martial arts or whatever. So it's a little bit challenging right now, but it is, when we're in work mode, I'm in my masculine because I run the company. So it's important to like take that hat off and leave it in our office and then go be married afterward. But it can be really hard, because unless you're open and having the conversation, which I had an emergency coaching call with my coach the other day because I completely lost my shit. So Saturday mornings, Ken and I sit together and we talk about 3 things we did really well this week with each other, 3 things that could use improvement, and then something we're going to commit to. And we have 2 separate bedrooms, by the way. I don't know if you know that about me, but when I move back in, I have like my little palace, and it's all pink and fucking beautiful. And then he has his room with like Al Pacino and shit in it. And I'm like, that's cool. You do you, boo. But so when I called the coach, I was really like, my mind started to tell me that my little mind, my subconscious mind started to tell me this was a mistake. We shouldn't have done it, da, da, da. And now we had this call, and he's just and I'm holding my wrist, guys, if you obviously can't see, but he's to just grab my wrist if I'm starting to get too aggressive for no reason, like, which is usually the case, and just say, babe, I think you're a bit in your masculine. And that's a good enough trigger for me to kind of stop and say, am I being a wife right now? Or am I being the CEO of the company right now? The CEO has no place in the bedroom, in my opinion. It won't work if you do that. And I think that's like one of the biggest problems with female entrepreneurs. We think we have to be CEO.
I'm all about role play, so I don't agree.
True. I mean, there's that, there's the occasion where it matters, but by and large, and that's it. Like, because he doesn't want to manage me in my CEO hat. Like, he just doesn't.
Yeah.
I'm an asshole sometimes when I'm like that. So, because I need to be with clients or whatever, right? Like you got to put your foot down. Anyway, so that's interesting. So what's next for you? I mean, so you've got the book, and I tried to get it because I'm in Toronto, and I don't know what happened, but I don't know if it was like Amazon.ca was giving me trouble.
Oh,
But
really?
yeah,
Um,
this was like when it first launched. Like I think it was actually pre-launch.
could be a pre-order. I mean, you should be able to find Insta Travel both on Amazon and in Costco. Every Costco in Canada has my book.
Really? Like
Yeah.
inside? Well, we can't go in there right now because
Well,
it's
you cannot, but online
like
on
2 hours to get in there because you've got like everybody stacked outside.
well, but it's right next to toilet paper, guys. So
Yeah.
and it's made out of paper. So just saying.
So what's next for you? I mean, I think it's like as soon as you started promoting that you're doing all these lives and all these interviews, like what the hell is she doing now? Like, and when you had John on, was it yesterday?
That was like 3 days ago.
Was it? Listen, hashtag quarantine life. I have no idea what day it is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I just saw him. I saw him at one of the events. I can't remember which one, but I just saw him on Goop, and I was like, oh my god! And then like a few days later, I saw that you were interviewing him. That must have been cool.
It was amazing. So I decided to take up this. Well, so I've been working on starting my own podcast for a year, but like it was never really a good time. And then we were super close to launching, and this whole quarantine happened. So I made a big announcement back in January on my page when, okay, my travel book came out. It's a beautiful ending to my full on
Right.
travel career. And now I'll be managing. Travel is sexy, but staying home is also sexy. And I said that, and the quarantine happened. People are like, okay, Aggie, thanks
Right.
for the premonition.
Yeah.
So this is all part of the plan. Starting a podcast was also part of it, but I was like, oh shoot, I can't invite people over. And then the people that I wanted to interview, I just started like saying, hey, maybe you should just go live for now. And sure enough, I was able to like interview a lot of my heroes, or about to interview a lot of my heroes. Alison Armstrong, Gabby Bernstein was like an hour ago, which was amazing. Jim Quick, which is like the brain coach. Peter Crone, if I was to pick one person that is just an ocean of knowledge and depth, and wow, he was part of the documentary Heal, How to Heal Yourself. So he's on Thursday. I have Chris Voss, who's I don't know if you read the Power of Negotiation book called Never Split the Difference. He's an top FBI negotiator.
Oh, okay.
He was one. So he'll. It's literally anyone I can possibly think of
And
that
are
I
you
would
just
talk
reaching
to, and I'll be like,
that's it right now? Like I'm just firing off like invite, and I'm like, no one's doing anything. This is when we're gonna all get to chat with each other because
exactly.
I'm at home. So
Good timing.
yeah, good for you. Good for you.
Yeah, I'm super excited.
Well, that's kind of. Do you have anything else you want to share? Any nuggets for our female
Well,
boss?
my only takeaway would be this: like the more I'm on this journey of self growth, and I see someone so beautiful like you are, and like doing so much and being so self aware. My only message would be like you are so ridiculously enough,
Mm-hmm.
and you're already doing enough that what you do is already so awesome. And I think if my only advice would be like appreciate you, yeah, because you really are. And I think what you're putting together for your audience is amazing, and the work you're doing for your marriage and everything, it's like I'm super inspired. So
Thank
I
you.
hope you can see that too.
I do. And it's sometimes you have to pause though to let it, and this is like perfect time to pause. But I agree. I think finding that, like finding the moments to be kind to yourself and not, but that it is a balance, because I think part of it too is I've stopped listening to a lot of the boys that are hustling, right? And it's like they're in constant hustle mode, and I found that I was starting to feel that way, where I didn't feel like I was doing enough, or I wasn't. And then I thought, I'm not you, and I'm not gonna, like, I'm just, like Gary Vee, I love him, but that guy never sleeps. I don't want to be that guy. I want to be present because the work I'm doing internally requires me to be present.
Yeah, and rested and
Totally.
yeah. That's
4 kids. They are, and the 3 of them are adults, and 2 of them are entrepreneurs. They need me to hold space for them when they need it, right? So I think
so beautifully
they're
said.
awesome. Yeah. Okay, Mama. Well, it was awesome to see you again. Are you going to any events, do you think, in the next little while, or are you gonna chill?
I'm not. That sounds like such a guilty pleasure right now.
Yeah.
The thought of like being around people.
Yeah, I know. Dreaming about.
I wanted to date this. I really wanted to redo Date with Destiny back in December. So if you're asking about events, Tony events, that's it. I'm actually we might be doing a retreat by Matthew Hasse. He's doing one in Florida in May, and it hasn't been canceled yet. And apparently, it's life changing. So I'm looking forward to that one too.
I'm going to be crewing at Date with Destiny this year. So you go, I'll be there supporting you all the way.
Oh, amazing!
Should be
big hug to you.
Yes,
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We'll talk soon, and stay safe. Keep posting all your warm weather pictures so we can go. Love you.
Love you, Barb.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.